Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today, our guest is going to talk to us about a really interesting platform that is designed to help when there are disasters out there and be able to connect people that want to help with those that need help. And I'm just really excited to have her here. Naysa Mishler is the founder of Everest Effect. And she formerly was the Senior Vice President of Global Brand and Product Marketing at Citi FinTech, and she's been involved in tech startups and tech companies for many years. And now she has launched this platform and I love what she has on somebody who sent me her information said, passion and conviction create change. And I love that. This is obviously a belief that she has, and she's going to be talking more about that. So Naysa, welcome to Leaders of Transformation. We're excited that you're here today.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
It is a pleasure. And I'm also very grateful that we have our listeners and our viewers, if you're watching on video here, because you're the reason why we do this podcast. We do this podcast because we want to inspire you. We want to encourage you to be the difference maker and the world changer that you're capable of being. And hopefully through this conversation, you might think of something and say, well, I was thinking of doing something. Either A, you can go and find out more about what Everest Effect is doing and support what they're doing and even get involved in what they're doing. Or you may have an idea and you've been thinking about it. Maybe it's just a matter of just going out there and doing it, because this world needs more people that will take action and be the leader of transformation that they're capable of being. So we'd love to hear your stories afterwards. You can go to leadersoftransformation.com. You can find us on social media. You can follow us on social media. We love hearing stories of transformation. We also love sharing stories of transformation, what people are doing in the world that's just creating that amazing ripple effect. So reach out to us and let us know about that. So Naysa, let's talk a little bit more about, I gave a brief intro on who you are, but talk a little bit more about what you're passionate about. How did you come to this realization or this discovery in creating Everest Effect?
Sure. So thank you. As you mentioned, I spent 15 plus years working for large financial services organizations and tech companies. I've always paved my own path, but I've spent most of my time in corporate life. I never expected to start a company. And I've never really been driven by title or money either. I've always, I think it's just been part of my DNA of wanting to have an impact and to change the system, even if it manifests in different ways, like what you were just saying. I think I'm very much one of those people that just wakes up and I think about a lot of things in the world and how we can fix them. But it really started, so I was an SVP at a very large bank. I had actually just had a baby. So for most people, a time in your life when you're looking for stability, and I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with. And it was the end of 2017. If you remember, there was Hurricane Harvey and about half a dozen other disasters that had happened, one after the other. And being in financial services, there was a group of us, whether it was through our personal means or through corporate means, we're thinking, how do we get these people access to capital, or how do we help? And as we looked more into the system, we realized it wasn't just capital, it was everything. There were donations going to waste and all these people looking to help and all these companies, but just the system was completely broken. And I'll never forget listening to a mom on NPR, and it was Christmas time. She had lost everything in Harvey and she didn't have money to buy her children Christmas gifts. And we were thinking in disbelief, like, there are just so many people that would help in this moment if they knew how to. And that was really the beginning. And having worked at marketplaces, my co-founder spent time at PayPal and eBay, and the team has come from Microsoft and Citi. We said, why has no one applied this model to disaster relief? And that was really how Everest started.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I heard, I don't know if it was like 6 months ago or something happened. I forget what it was. And somebody was saying to me how there was so much help that was offered to a particular place, right? To help out in whatever was going on. And I don't know why it's eluding me right now for what the actual situation was, but there was so much help that they couldn't get people in fast enough. Like there was like this, they had to actually limit people from going because they were
interfering.
distracting the people that were actually doing, like the medical people that needed to get in there to help. It was so many volunteers, just layman volunteers that wanted to go and help. And so that's just a testament, I think, to the fact that there are a lot of people that want to help and just don't know how to do it. And, or there's all these silos that, you've got people that are saying, hey, we're going to go and do something. We're going to send our team, and they're going to feel good about that because they're sending a team and they're going, but they're not coordinating with some of the larger organizations so that they can have the greatest impact in that. And so how does Everest Effect work that does it in such a way that the impact is not wasted or minimized?
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. They actually call it the second disaster. And so when these things happen, there's a name for it. It happens so often. And they, even with in-kind donations, so over 60% of them end up in landfills, or like you said, they get dropped off at the emergency station and interfere with first responder efforts. But you had, even the earthquake in Haiti, people were sending winter coats and prom dresses, and just, it's all coming from a good place, but it's just absolutely not what's needed, and the needs change over time. And so really we created this, it's a digital marketplace, and it's the first one that directly connects the people in need with the donors and brands who want to help. So there are no intermediaries. And we're not really trying to compete with some of the larger name nonprofits. If anything, we'll enable them, but it's really to say, look, there are so many barriers. Why don't we break those down and use this marketplace model? So if you think about, it's almost like a wedding registry for relief. And so when for people impacted, they can go on, they can see resources of what's available, and they can also request items like diapers and pet food and soap and other things, depending on the disaster. And then you have donors that can go in real time and see the baskets of items that people have requested and actually purchase them on their behalf. And it's all done through our partnership with Walmart. So it's a 100% model where you give $50 and $50 is used to purchase those items, and then it's delivered directly to the people that are in need.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. So let me understand, if there's somebody, let's say I go on there and I say, okay, here's what I need. I need diapers, which I do not. But if I need diapers, let's say, right? And so now somebody sees that, are they going to see just mine, or are they going to see, like, there are so many people that need diapers, right? So that we purchase for a group of people, or is it individual? Or are they picking individuals? Kind of like a Kiva. I think of Kiva, right? Like you go on Kiva, and I've donated many times to Kiva, right? So I go on there and I say, oh, I want to donate to that person. They need an extra, whatever, X amount of dollars. And so that helps fund their project. And it just makes, it sounds a little bit like that. Or is it more in the grouping of, wow, this many, there's a X number of diapers that are needed. And so, yeah. Talk a little bit about
no, it's interesting because people do have an affinity. And I think pets are another example where if you're a pet owner, which I am, and a tornado happens, if there's an opportunity to support, our affinity group of a cause or an area that you're interested in, it definitely helps. But in our case, it's actually the individual. So what we don't want to do is expose so much information. People still want privacy, and even if they've lost everything or aren't in a situation to, like what we're in right now, to like purchase these critical items, they don't love asking for handouts. So there's a level of privacy, but also a level of them sharing their story, and we give them the opportunity to do that. And it's been amazing to see on the other side how powerful it is for donors, because they typically don't get that level of detail when they give. They give and they hope that it goes to the right place. And so we have stories of mothers who have been through chemo and are in remission, but because of the current environment can't go shopping for themselves, or people that have lost their jobs and have, babies on the way or families to support. So it adds a level of personalization, and it also, I think, gives the donors a feeling and a confidence in these are real people and real needs, and I actually know where my money's going, which is not something that happens in most cases.
So what is the biggest need right now? And we're in COVID, this is going on, and by the time of this release, that we're still going to be in it, even if by then, which it'll be in about a month from now or so.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be the ramifications. And I love on your website, you actually have it's broken down. You have prepare, relief, and then recovery, because it's not just the immediate, it's the follow through. And like you said earlier, the needs change over time and and so forth. So what right now is the biggest need that is out there?
Yeah, so it's changed. If you were to ask me 4 weeks ago, it's different than today, and it'll be different in 4 weeks from now, which is another great thing about the platform and the power of being able to pivot and to evolve as the needs evolve. So at the beginning, it was really soap, things like soap and water, which it's still needed, but a little less now. And then it was diapers and batteries. And now, while those are still needed, we're seeing like air mattresses for families that are living together, and also school supplies. So it's really evolved, and I believe it'll continue to evolve even as isolations are lifted and people are trying to return to work. There are still a lot of people. I think the statistic was over almost 75% of Americans have reported loss in income. You have unemployment nearing 15%. So the needs are going to continue and they're going to evolve, but that's what we've seen right now. And in other disasters, so we're also anticipating that, there will be another crisis and event that happens. And so to your point, while the media may move on, the needs continue. So we do think about the full cycle and how we can support people through all the stages, but also for these smaller events that will happen while COVID is still going on. How do we bring attention to that as well, and then support those groups as well?
That's great. And so do you find that right now you have, I don't know if you're international, I mean, obviously you mentioned about some of the disasters that you were supporting previous to COVID, of course. So is it international? Do you find that there's a lot of need coming from the US versus like what the rest of the world is needing right now?
So for COVID, we're supporting primarily the US. We do have donors from all around the world that are supporting people here. Because of the supply chain and infrastructure, though, we are focused on the U.S. because there is such a demand and it's growing. But we have supported like the Australian bushfires and other events in the past. And while each culture and country is unique, it's really they play out. We've been doing this long enough where you see it plays out in a very similar fashion. And so now it's we have enough experience, and we also have the right partners on the ground to help localize, because as we mentioned earlier, there's still very much a human part to what we're doing. And so technology solving for a lot of it, but there's still the human element. So it's a mix of past experience and then having the right partners. So when these moments happen, you can activate and support the communities in the right way.
And how do they find out about it? If somebody's in a situation where they're in need, how do they find out? Obviously podcasts like this, but
Yeah.
You're obviously coming from a tech space, so social media, or how do they find out about Everest Effect?
Yeah, so it's a few ways. And there is, right now in particular, there's a lot of noise out there. So typically the good news is these events are very event driven. So you have a lot of media attention that's created. And so inserting ourselves into that moment. And again, having done this for a while, we have a process in order to do that. We have partnerships, both private and public partnerships or nonprofit partnerships that have the scale and reach, and they could be solving for one area. So they could be solving for hunger, or they could be involved more in the first response phase. And so having, partners around the country and around the world who have been doing this for quite some time and supporting these communities. We even find on the private side, like Airbnb is a great example. Like they are working on housing, and through their open homes program are helping a lot of their communities, but housing is just one piece of it. And those people are also looking for additional help and services. So it's having the partnerships in place and then being able to insert ourselves into the conversation, and just the power of social and the virality that happens, and people also wanting to, kind of pay it forward and to share with their networks has been very powerful.
Oh, wow. I mean, I can see this I can see your passion in it, and I can see like this is in a way all consuming because there's so much to it. Like you said, even just the idea of partnering with other organizations, and so can provide this and so can do this. And then of course there's all the individual donors, and I think of all the companies, getting these companies on board that have access to resources that people actually need. So what have you noticed about the corporate response pre-COVID and how it's changed now that this, it brings it really home. It's one thing to have a disaster, that there's something happens in Puerto Rico or Haiti or somewhere else. It's another thing to have it right here and impacting people. So I don't know if has that changed the way corporate looks at it and how involved they are?
It's very interesting. So for disaster specifically, Hurricane Katrina was a really big turning point for social impact. And there's a great case study actually about Walmart, where they were able to use Katrina to help people in need, but dramatically improve their own public image. And they would use their supply chain to distribute goods and found ways to support employees and customers. And the good news is it really changed the dialogue, I think, in terms of how companies play a role in the need for public and private to come together. And with COVID, what's interesting, so with a normal disaster, you have, it's more isolated to a certain state or an area. And so unless the companies that respond, there are a few on the national level that just do it now each time, but most of the time they respond if their employees or their customers have been impacted. And what's unique about COVID is it's touched everybody. And so I think in a good way, you now are seeing where maybe it was hundreds, and now you're seeing thousands, if not tens of thousands of companies say, what do we do every day, pre-COVID to serve our customers and our employees, and how can that be applied to solve some of these challenges that we're facing? So it's from everything from, as we've seen, donating or manufacturing masks to sharing data or providing financial assistance to their employees and customers. So I think it's actually helped us make more progress in this area, because there's now a responsibility, and because it isn't short-lived, right? We're going to be in this for a while. We don't even know what the aftermath will look like. And so I actually think more good will come out of it, and hopefully the actions that a lot of these companies are taking are ones that can be used in other situations to support the communities.
So you, obviously Walmart, your partner with Walmart, they're stepping up. Who are some of the brands that have really shone in this time that we can acknowledge here?
For COVID specifically? So, I mean, one that comes to mind for COVID, but also others, and I mentioned them earlier, was Airbnb. And so they are one of the first to always step up. And even in times where, a lot of these companies are going through their own challenges as a business, and how do they support their employees? So I would say Airbnb. Another one that, they're one of our first service partners, is TaskRabbit. So they've actually had to figure out how to pivot, because their business is very much around like physical services and in-person services. And they said, how do we support this contactless society? And so they've not only figured out, what are the tasks that we can offer to people, like prescription pickup and grocery delivery, but they're also offering it at no cost to vulnerable communities. So those are two that come to mind. And then I would say also, it's been really great to see a lot of the retailers sort of think about, all right, we need to, despite what's happening on the retail landscape and how challenging that's been, how do we, support and manufacture masks to distribute those? And then the same on the food, I would say the service industry too. It's another one that is probably the most affected, along with, retail and a few others, and to see them think about how do we continue to support our people and also serve our communities. There are a number of brands and local restaurants that have stepped up as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I noticed PayPal. So I have a PayPal account. I also have a Square account, and this is no slight on Square. It's just an observation, happened to compare the two. Is PayPal, they offer like instant transfer. And there was this notification that came out that said, instant transfers right now, you can do standard transfers, which takes 2-3 days or whatever. But I guess right now, because people are needing their money faster, they are waiving those instant transfer fees, where Square hasn't done that yet. Maybe they will by the time but they haven't done it. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting, right? I mean, it was a great idea. And yes, it's an add-on, and they make that little extra money for the instant transfer fees, but they just waive those for now. Yeah, you still pay them a fee, but they found a small way where they can help out with people who need to get their money faster and are not going to be deterred by, I have to now pay this extra fee on top of it. I need every dollar that I can, So
in that moment,
yeah,
right? We say Zoom is another one, right? When they opened up their, for people that had never, I have family members who had never Zoomed in their life or done Google Hangouts, right? And now this is the norm of how people are communicating. So no, it's a great example. I mean, there's probably, if you were to ask me that question during a typical disaster, there would be a list of, top, 10 or so companies. But as I said, I mean, there are thousands of examples of, companies doing good and just thinking about, because everyone's impacted too. So the amount of empathy and just also being able to think about, what are these people going through and how can we help is pretty remarkable.
So what would you want to see more of in a perfect world? What would you want to see more of that is not happening right now, but that you believe could happen?
It's a great question. I would say, so for COVID specifically, or just
in general? Yeah.
I would say there are more companies that are stepping up, and we saw with the Business Roundtable that was signed last year and some other things, to say, I believe in purpose and profit. I commit to this, and we are going to figure out how to weave it into our DNA. And a lot of them are, but a lot of them are still trying to figure out what that means. And it's not easy. Like if you're a Fortune 50 company, it is not easy to just turn this on and make it part of your culture. But there are, still so many companies that are just writing checks and checking the box and even for COVID, $10 billion has already been given, across to a number of different, whether it's research or helping people in need. But it's like the accountability of really saying, like, where is that money going and what is the impact it's having, which is where we spend a lot of time in our technology in verifying the users, but also creating a score to actually measure their recovery and progress, and to not measure it by dollars donated, but measure it by like people's lives truly returning to normal and people recovering.
So you actually track that?
So we are. So right now we verify the users that request help on the platform, and we are developing a scoring system right now to understand. So recovery for you is going to look different than for me, and you had a state of your life pre-disaster and then a state post. And in this case, right, there are people that that more people than we would have expected, right, to have been impacted in all these different ways. So it's creating a scoring system to understand what that looks like, and then to actually be able to measure the recovery. And you not only can measure the progress of an individual, but start to measure the resilience of these communities. So it becomes very powerful, but something that does not exist to date. And so we're developing that as we speak.
That is good. I like that. Not just because, I mean, it's not just the giving and helping them and saying, I hope that works out. It's really seeing it through. So then you can also make adjustments to, wow, we're serving them initially, but we're not supporting them, or it's not enough to support them all the way through, and it's not always money. That's the thing. It's kind of like with the stimulus checks came out, right? So everybody's getting these stimulus checks. And I had somebody recently who mentioned they got the stimulus check. And so now they're asking themselves, okay, what do I do with this, right? I mean, it's just like, here's an amount. We're going to take this arbitrary amount and we're just going to decide that we're going to give you this amount, and whoever applies for it and whoever qualifies for it gets it. But do we know that that's actually what they need? Is that the right amount? How do you, like, it was just a thing, right? It was just like, okay, everybody's going to get X amount of dollars, and there you go. And it's great from that invitation. Although, I mean, obviously as taxpayers, somehow that is going to come back on us, this, right? but the question I had was like, okay, is that actually, did you actually go out and ask people what they actually need to be able to sustain themselves through this process? And so being able to have those measurements in place, I think, is really important. I'm a big advocate of like even generosity. I'm in this process right now of exploring, what does generosity look like? How do you measure generosity on so many levels? And that's exactly what you're talking about here, is how do you measure the impact of that so that we can actually make the greatest impact that we really want to make. So I love this. Naysa, this is really, really awesome what you're doing. I love it. I'm so glad that we connected, and thank you to Sarah and Ann who connected us through their PR agency. And so for those of you that are listening, if you want to find out more, you can go to everesteffect.com. Now, when they go there, Naysa, where do they start? Like if they want to donate, where do they begin the process when they go to your website? Because I've been there. There's lots of really awesome things going on. Where do they begin? And then if they're looking for support, maybe somebody's hearing and saying, oh my gosh, I need some support. I'm the one who needs whatever it is. How do they start
the process? Sure. So when you arrive at the site, it's very easy. At the very top, there's one button that says give help and one button that says get help. And so if you go to get help, you can go and you can see how you can create a basket. It's a pretty easy process to get onboarded and verified. And then you can select the items. We will be adding services over time. Right now we're starting with physical goods, but as you mentioned, as we think about mental health and healthcare costs and other things, we hope to add those in the future. So you can go and request items there. And then for those that want to help, you can go to the Give Help section. You can see a list of some of the baskets and some of the stories behind the people in need. And then you can go right to the site through Walmart and purchase the goods and be able to help these real people in real time.
That's awesome. How long does it usually take for let's say I go on there and I give $100 and I select a basket and I give $100 for those products to be purchased. How long does it take to get to the person?
So the supply chain is still strained, but it's gotten a lot better. So we're seeing most of the items are delivered within a week, less than a week. But it's so it's typically, it could be as soon as even we're seeing delays in Amazon and some of these other delivery systems, but as short as 3 days and up to a week, depending on.
That's pretty quick. Yeah, that's great. That is really great. Awesome. Naysa, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all you're doing. It's just fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity and for all you do. And as you said earlier, I think just the lesson and a lot of this is, if you find yourself like we all are at home and we don't feel like we have a ton of time, like most of us have like more headspace than normal and are, thinking about things now that, we have a sense of what this current norm looks like. And so just to, if you find yourself thinking about some of these things, you really can, have an impact in ways that you never thought you could. So go after it.
And you don't have to go out and wear a mask and go shop for somebody in your neighborhood if you are immune compromised or you're not in a position to do that, but maybe you have financial resources that you could provide. Even I'm thinking seniors who might be at home and they're in quarantine themselves and they want to protect themselves from even going out and shopping and so forth, but they might actually be in a financial position to be able to help someone else in other ways. And this gives them that opportunity to be able to do it. And so I love it. I love it. It's really awesome. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. I would encourage you go check out everesteffect.com. You've heard me say this before. I'll say it again. Leaders of transformation take action. So do something with what you heard today, whether it's just being inspired to go and to give so that somebody else can get the resources, the supplies they need, or whether it is even you think about it and saying, wow, this is a brilliant idea. Wow, I had an idea and I've been thinking about it. Well, stop thinking about it and start taking action on it, because you know what? You said 2017, Naysa started this, and here she is today with a platform that is able to help a lot of people. But the only reason why she's able to help them now is because she started when that idea came, and she started it, and she was then in the position to be able to support. And so, whether it is you supporting somebody now, and or whether it is you actually creating a platform, an arena, a way for you to help people so that 3 years from now, who knows what the world needs, that you can be in a position then to help and be that leader of transformation then. So I encourage you, take action. We'd love to hear your stories. You can go on leadersoftransformation.com. Again, social media, you can follow us there, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. And of course, you can find me on social media as well. And we'd love to hear what you're up to. So with that, have a wonderful day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.